What's an argument you couldn't believe you had to have with an adult? Number 1. I met someone who didn't believe in space. Not space travel, outer space. Just didn't think it was real. He actually thinks that up there is some kind of dome and lights like in the Truman Show. Number 2. I once had to explain that going 60 miles per hour meant you would literally travel 60 miles in an hour to a colleague. We were both in our mid-20s at the time. I don't know how they passed math class ever. Number 3. A coworker insisted Okinawa was a Hawaiian island and couldn't be convinced otherwise. Number 4. No joke, I went to pick up an item at the grocery store and it was labeled 1/3 pound. And an older lady tapped me on the shoulder and pointed to a competitive item next to it for the same price, but was labeled 1/4 pound. She said, "It's smarter to buy the larger package for the same price." Your wife would know that. She could absolutely not be convinced that 1/3 pound was larger than 1/4 pound. Even explaining the math and showing her the weight in ounces on the package, she wasn't having it. I just laughed to myself and walked away. Number 5. I'm a math teacher. I would have walked her over to the loose beans and pulled out 12 beans, then had her count them. How many beans are there? 12. Good. Now, I'm going to divide them into fourths. How many beans are in each fourth? 3. Great. Remember that. Now, let's return all the beans to one pile and split them into thirds. Now, how many beans are in each third? I'm not dumb, you know. You can't trick me. I'm not trying to trick you. Just tell me how many beans are in each third. Slowly counts 4. Great, so, do you see that you get more beans in a third than you do in a quarter? Yes. So, which pack will give you more meat? The quarter, because the 4 is bigger than 3. Number 6. When I was like 16, I worked in a trade as a labor position, so I was regularly working with grown men up to 60 years old. One time I'm with a guy who's maybe 30 and another who is a bit older. And 30-year-old guy goes, "Auschwitz? Like Australia." And it turned out he didn't know what the Holocaust was at all. He was pissed that a kid was laughing at him, so he said, "I bet you don't even know about Rochambeau." I didn't, so I looked it up and was like, "Some French soldier who helped the US in the Revolutionary War?" And he said, "No, you idiot. It's another name for rock, paper, scissors." And both of them started laughing at me, hysterically. I think that was the day I truly realized that being an adult didn't mean you were smart or had your shit together. Also the day I realized I didn't want to be a laborer at 30 to 50 years old. Number 7. Why 2 tablets of vitamin B6 do not equal 1 of B12. Number 8. One of my favorite stories was one year I was Christmas shopping with my younger brother, who was probably 18-ish at the time, at a sporting goods store. I was like, "Hey, they have live reindeer in back. They're pretty cool." He thought I was messing with him. So we went to go look. He just stared blankly at them for a few beats, then meekly asked, "Can they fly?" Number 9. I had to explain to another adult that a mouse does not grow up to be a rat. Number 10. With a 40-year-old woman in South America. I had to explain where babies came from. She had like 17 kids and didn't know why God kept blessing her with more children. She just wanted it to stop, as she had been pregnant pretty much her entire adult life. I'm not sure if her husband knew or not. Number 11. That dictionaries are better source of definition of words than Twitter is. They said Western dictionaries are propaganda and can't be trusted for the definition of words. Number 12. I knew a lady who had 2 sons. We were visiting and I had to use the bathroom and I was on my girly time. Even though I wrapped it up, you can see the wrap in the trash can. She approached me and started screaming how I was a whore out of nowhere. Long story short, she was under the belief that a woman only had a period if she was a whore, because it was God's way of punishing a woman. I had to sit and explain to her that a period was a natural thing that women had and it was not some divine retribution. Again, this was another woman. And she had 2 children, which means she had all of her body parts. And obviously they functioned correctly because she had children, which means she has had periods in her life. She wouldn't believe me, just went completely wild screaming until I had to leave because she wouldn't stop screaming how I was a whore and my period was proof of it. Number 13. When I was a kid, my neighbor had set cage traps for a possum that was tearing up his lawn at night searching for bugs. Apparently. One day I came home from school and noticed a cat in the trap. Obviously someone's pet, as it was wearing a collar. I walk over into his yard to free it, and the guy comes out and goes berserk as I was trying to let it out. I explained it was a house cat. which he could obviously see but insisted to keep it trapped. I told him to piss off or whatever and let the cat out. He continues to yell at me as I walked away and ignored him. Fuck that guy, 30 years later, and it still pisses me off. Number 14. Explaining to my second grade teacher that Alaska is bigger than Texas, and yes, the picture on the wall map is smaller, but that is because they are at different scales. Number 15. We live in Canada. And we were on a road trip. We stopped to take a piss and a tumbleweed comes rolling across the way. He tells me that, "Did you know tumbleweeds come from Texas?" At first I thought I was a joke. But the guy was dead fucking serious. These things just tumble across 100,000 of kilometers across the mountains and countless fences, river and lakes. It was the dumbest conversation I ever had. And he's one of those guys that always thinks he's right. So me and all my buddies call him Texas Tumbleweed Bryce. Still do to this day. Number 16. I once needed to actually give a lecture of poultry reproduction to a 45-year-old man who was claiming that chickens are hermaphrodite and that they do not need to have sex to procreate. It was surreal. Number 17. When I was a freshie in college, I tried to explain to a 23-year-old guy who'd missed some required lower division classes that the reason there are different words for most animals is because they reflect the sex of the animal. He absolutely wasn't buying that there's any difference between a bull and a cow or a stallion and a mare. I was not about to get into more complex stuff like steers or geldings until he had the basic differences down. Since his list of objections to what I was trying to tell him included the facts that I was 18 and female, our professor cleared it up immediately by having an impromptu 30-minute lesson on animal terminology. He prefaced the entire thing by writing, "Take notes. Pop quiz likely," at the top of the board. I don't know how Mr. Senior Guy did, but it was basically a gift of 25 points for the rest of us. Number 18. My friend's boyfriend thought that she got her period because she cheated on him. He was saying that they hadn't had sex recently and, all of a sudden, her period started. I had to explain to a fully grown 23-year-old man that periods are part of a menstrual cycle and most women have them in varying degrees, and are not a direct result of vaginal sex. Afterwards it went something like this. So where does the blood come from? Tissue from the lining of the uterus sheds, which causes the bleeding. So girls get their period after sex then. Why do you still think that? Because you're penetrating the uterus. The vagina is different from the uterus. You're penetrating the vagina. I thought vagina was the word for how it looks on the outside. And that's also how I found out, it became increasingly obvious with each new sentence, that this guy is a total idiot who doesn't know anything about the female reproductive system or anatomy. Number 19. My dad had to explain to my sweet mother that hamburgers were made out of cow meat, not pig meat. She had gone 40 years of her life at the time not knowing. Number 20. That Africa is not a country in and of itself. It's made up of many countries. A paraprofessional in my classroom started to argue with me as I was teaching my students about continents. She was trying to say that Africa is a country, and I said no, it is made up of many countries. I had all the kids pull out their laptops and Google the countries of Africa. Number 21. A friend of mine believes wholeheartedly that there are fairy people and giant people living secretly in New Zealand, and that giant people were also the ones who built the pyramids. He's convinced that he is actually a hybrid too, that he doesn't truly belong in human society. He's 40.